the cup competitions are big, and rightfully so over in England. And I don't think that the Open Cup, and we've talked about this before, but I want to hammer it again. This is the tournament, the US Open Cup, which is the oldest competition in this country. So we have history. It's been around for over 100 years. It's a concept that's should be, frankly, easy for the casual fan to understand because it's just March Madness, right? And everybody understands March Madness. You got the small clubs going against the big dogs. There's so many great narratives here. And yet it's hard to find sometimes on TV. It's hard to know what the storylines are. It's not getting the coverage that it deserves. And that bums me out because I think it's such an incredible gateway drug that what's the quote? Rising tides lift all boats. I know that they're MLS, because it's not a competition that they necessarily run, that they're a part of. I could see them being a little reluctant to maybe give up more control or more slice of the pie or any kind of broadcast stuff behind the scenes or extra money to a different competition. But I think that I think MLS would benefit from more love for the Open Cup. And so it feels a little bit short-sighted that it isn't seen. And we've only had so far in the Open Cup 2 upsets. We had Atlanta United lose last night to Memphis 901, and San Jose Earthquakes lost to Monterey Bay. The fun fact about that, Monterey Bay is coached by Frank Yallop, a former Quakes coach, and former Quakes player Ramiro Corrales. So that was pretty cool, and that was their first big win in their club's history. I mean, they've obviously had some success in the USL Championship. This is their second year ever, but to beat the Quakes is a pretty big deal. But I wanted to get your thoughts on just the Open Cup overall and where you think we could build this in a more meaningful way. Ultimately, I think they need to have kind of like a college game day kind of atmosphere where you're going to these maybe smaller markets, you're giving that type of love, that type of coverage, you're building the excitement so that people really understand how big of a deal this competition is.
Yeah, I think, again, U.S. Soccer was looking for a production partner, somebody to cover production costs to get this off the ground. Obviously, we saw last year on ESPN, they did a whip around show of trying to give you as much as possible as in the later
I want that to continue.
I'm trying to figure out how to do that in the earlier rounds, right? Because this is the rounds that I'm most excited because I see like my local teams around before play against my other local teams that are very regional, semi-pro, part-time playing against or part-time playing against a semi-pro team, then a semi-pro team playing against a pro team,
exactly,
a pro team playing against a higher level pro team. And while the upsets mean something to me on a national level within my own sort of communities and where I come from, that means the world to me to see these things happen, right? And it means the world to me to see things come into these communities, especially for these away games. And I remember even playing in the cup in Germany, you went to these really small, old, where it's like, like the rail around the field type of thing where you couldn't go past the rail. And it's just like, there's no like bleacher and it's full of people because that's their big game for the year. You're coming in a cup match and generally you win, but you're having to go away from home and it changes the dynamic of things. It makes teams play a lot better against you and all of that. And it just brings this excitement to it as a player, but at the same time, as a fan, it's a really cool 1, 2, or 3 game experience. I don't know if it's a format change, Jimmy, that would make it if it was more of like a group play throughout a period of time where you have those exit from certain things or how it all sort of played out. But I would love to see just more interaction at the local, state and regional level to create the future of those fan bases. And again, that requires buy-in from everybody, but I like the idea of that.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I want to give a shout out to the CBS Sports Golasso Network, the Golasso channel. They have picked up 3 games in this previous round, and it looks like they're going to continue to do that. And are giving real coverage and respectful coverage and meaningful coverage of this tournament. And that makes me proud to be a part of this whole thing because this competition means a lot to me. I won it in 2004, so maybe I'm a little bit biased. It was the year that they renamed the tournament to have Lamar Hunt. So it's the Lamar Hunt US Open Cup. And we won it, and Lamar Hunt owned us, and he came down and gave me a big fat hug, and I thought that was a really cool moment in my career to have reached that point, to be in that position where I could win a competition, and it mattered to me. And when I say, and I talk about the trophies that I've won in my career, the Open Cup's right there. It's a trophy. We dedicated and we sacrificed, and it was something that mattered. And I think it's also a competition, and we see a lot of teams, we'll just use England right now in the FA Cup, where they use that competition as a springboard for other things. And sometimes you need to go into those cup competitions to find your confidence. I'll use Sporting Kansas City as an example, who are terrible this year and have been in MLS. But they go into this competition, and then last night they win 3-0. Alan Polito, who hasn't scored a goal since he had a significant injury, has hit the back of the net. What is that going to do for him? So you have all these,
which by the way is almost for everyone's reference, just to give it context. I mean, it's almost 2 years for a player of his quality since he scored, right? It's a big deal.
Yeah. It is. It's a really big deal. So you have those storylines. You have the storyline for me where these big dogs, these MLS teams, come in and they should be the favorites on paper. And as you know, Heath, these games are difficult. These players are up for it. This is one of their biggest games of the season when they're taking you on. And a lot of teams, MLS teams, at least historically, I think, until like maybe the semifinals, are kind of casual about how they approach it. They have a built-in excuse. I liken it to when European teams come over here in the summer and play friendlies against MLS teams. It's like, well, it's the summer. It's preseason. If we lose, we lose, whatever. And MLS teams like, well, we're playing our younger players and we don't want anybody to get hurt, but I want it to matter more than that. And I see Jack making fun of me that I won it in 1904. Competition wasn't around. It wasn't around in 1904, Jack. So suck it. Yeah. But I wanted to ask you this because I didn't put a button on that Open Cup competition. I wanted to know who you thought was going to win. I went with Sporting Kansas City because I want to see my former club have something to be happy about this season. It's not looking good domestically in the MLS. So what did you think? Who do you think is going to win it this year?
Oh, man. By the way, don't we have some sort of video to run of you, Jimmy, with your prediction?
No, we don't. No, we don't. But we did tweet it out of me going on Morning Footy good. and also on Box to Box.
Well, when I saw the cut of it, it sounded like Jimmy hedging in the beginning, and then you were forced to make a decision in the end. It sounded like maybe this team, maybe that team. That's where things started?
That's where things started. I'll raise my hand and say that I had gone with the teams in MLS that have the depth, that have the talent to win this competition, and are the ones that actually take it seriously, right? Sporting Kansas City and Peter Vermes, they make it a point like this competition matters. It's a trophy like any other trophy that we're competing for, and we need to approach it the same way. Chicago Fire have been doing it from year one. When they won it in 98, they won the double in their first ever year of existence. That had Jesse Marsh on it, Chris Armas, DeMarcus Beasley, Carlos Bucanega. Like they had a ton of guys. And so you can see that those clubs that those guys were a part of. I think the Red Bulls under Jesse Marsh, remember Mike Rella was on the show today talking about how Jesse Marsh wanted to win this competition. It was a point of emphasis for him. So Seattle Sounders obviously have a nice track record here. So I just kind of threw my name in the hat with a couple of these clubs that I know will take it serious. Now, the Seattle Sounders had to outlast the San Diego Loyal last night. Crazy game between MLS and USL championship team. Landon Donovan is the coach of the San Diego Loyal. It was 3-3 after 90 minutes, Heath, and it ended 5-4 after extra time. There was 3 goals in extra time. Freddie Montero got a penalty real late on to seal that deal. But shout out to San Diego Loyal, who were down 2-0 and found their way back into the game and almost stole that. But I did hedge, and then I'm trying to will it into existence because I want the fans of Sporting Kansas City to feel good again. It's been a long time since they won a trophy or had any type of success.
Yeah, and that was their first win of the competitive win of the year and anything. So it's a big moment. Hopefully they can feed off that. I mean, in terms of, it's hard for me to not go with like your Open Cup giants, like Seattle Sounders, who claw their way out of that and can find some rhythm and momentum. Right. Obviously, it's an interesting year because of just how busy these calendars are and schedules. Teams are going to have to prioritize who they play when. Do you go league? How do you manage Leagues Cup if you're an MLS team, right? Open Cup, which I know is a big deal for a lot of clubs and what they want to be able to get out of it. So I'm gonna go with actually.
I like that.
No, I'm not gonna say Seattle.
You can talk about Sac Republic. They got to the final last year to lose to Orlando City.
Yeah, and they beat Oakland Roots in their last match, but I'm thinking more of like a distressed team, Jimmy. So somebody that I think is going to look at this with how much they've got going on. They're going to look at this as like how do we show we made progress as a team, but also won something this year, like a Portland Timbers, who I think are it's going to be a long season for them. So I think they could be something worthwhile in this competition. I look at Miami also sneaking out, DeAndre Yedlin with an own goal, and then only should have gone out. They score one in whatever minute they end up winning.
What about What about St. Louis? Obviously, they're lighting up MLS. I
Well,
wonder how they're going to approach
they
this.
smashed. They smashed somebody yesterday too. Who was it?
They beat Union Omaha 5-1.
Yeah, 5-1. They could too, but I just feel like, again, it's do they have the depth to be able to continue to grind across all competitions? Maybe, maybe not. But I do, not to say teams devalue it, but you get into a point of a season where you've got to sort of hedge and say, you know what, this is the one. This is the motivator. This is either a season changer for us or something like that. Not to say you can't have a clean sweep, because I think, you know, you've got plenty of big clubs in here that could win the league and win the Open Cup all in succession, and win Leagues Cup for that matter. So
yeah,
but
there's a lot to balance.
I'm gonna say Portland. I'm gonna go with Portland.
Okay. Rose City till Heath dies in this particular one.